We'll move to the remote session. I don't know. Okay? Yeah, keep it. Good. This session, it will be with Marci Powell. We were honored to host Marci during the Ankabut users meeting, remotely also, and it was a real success session, and we would like it to do the same and to share the same experience with you here. And we have Marci from United States. Marci Powell joined the Polycom education team in 2007 as Global Director for Higher Education. She currently serves on the United States Distance Learning Association Board of Directors as Executive Vice President, President-elected. And also at the International Society for Technology in Education, ISTE, Interactive Video Conferencing Special Interest Group. She deals with such topics as interactive and engaging video conferencing, distance learning course development, instructional design and delivery, corporate training at a distance and video conferencing etiquettes. Her address is entitled Distance Learning Innovation, Trends and Impact. Please join me in welcoming Marci Powell.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, I hear myself. I'm hearing myself back. Let me turn that down. I'll turn it down for questions. There. Can you hear me just fine?
Yes, please.
Excellent. Well, I'm very glad to be with you. I should say afternoon. It's morning for me. It's 6:30 in the morning. So I apologize. Good afternoon. Wanted to start off sharing just a moment, and then we're going to get into some global trends and best practices. When I first started years ago, when I first got married, I actually lived in Alabama, and the world's largest one-lot dam was there. On the edge of the one-lot, I saw a shark cage. Now, if you know anything about the United States, you know Alabama is close to the center. Nowhere near an ocean. And I couldn't imagine why they would need a shark cage. So I inquired. And what I found out was that the mechanics and engineers would not go down into the turbines to work on them without being in a shark cage, because the catfish were so large they could swallow a man whole. I found out later. Well, I saw a small one. I began to understand how big catfish could grow. And what they told me was that catfish grow to the size of their environment. And the loch was 500 feet deep. Years later, I had the opportunity to, with $1 million grant, put in video conferencing across the state of Texas for a K-12 primary secondary education district. And what I discovered was the four walls of the classroom disappeared, and our students could grow as large as they possibly wanted to. The world was at their fingertips. It was very exciting for me. And so as I began, that changed my career. And I began to really work with universities and education institutions all over the world. And I found that we're all very similar in what we're doing. And technology is changing at such a fast speed. And there's so many great ways we can utilize the technology that there are many that are doing some amazing things. And that's what I wanted to share with you. I saw this recently in South Africa. As I was driving down the freeway, I was going to keynote at Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. And I thought, now here's technology that originally was invented for something completely different, but we've learned how to adapt it and use it for our needs. Quite often we as educators find the same thing. We find all these technologies, all these Web 2.0 tools that are out there, and we learn that we can use them for education, for distance learning, blended learning, mobile learning, but it's not necessarily what they were intended for originally. Today with mobility, we're seeing that over 900 million tablets will be in the marketplace within the next 2 years. And over 982 million smartphones are being shipped annually. So our students, regardless of their age, have the technology in their hands. And many universities were beginning to leverage that as a BYOD policy, bring your own device. So quite a few of us are leveraging those technologies and using these wonderful tools such as my iPad, my smartphone, my iPhone, to collaborate, to expand the classroom. How are they doing that? And I might add that it's even the future students that are doing it as well. So we're starting to see this multiple modality. Using all of the tools, blending traditional learning with distance learning, using the online technology, going synchronously like we're doing right now. And asynchronously, so anytime, anywhere learning. That has caused us consequently to change some of our innovative teaching practices. And we're able to do more student-centered, personalized learning, and extend our classroom in various ways. One of my favorite uses of the technology is really the collaboration side and the ability to reach subject matter experts to greatly enrich our curriculum. We can make whatever we're teaching come to life. We're able to transform our classrooms to have this more student-centered pedagogy and to really add this collaborative environment that, quite frankly, simulates what is today's workplace. If we truly want to have our students prepared for their future, not our past, we must have an education system that gives them not only the education and the knowledge that they need, but it gives them the applied skills, such as using all of these devices, knowing how to work in geographically dispersed teams, and collaborate effectively for problem solving that we see every day in the workplace. We're starting to see those classrooms change to emulate that type of environment, utilizing all of the tools and extending the reach of the classroom, even bringing in the subject matter experts. One of my favorite examples of how the classrooms are transforming is to look at the corporate world. Because what I see as I work with many higher ed institutions as well as corporations, and I see these fine lines disappearing as corporations and higher ed are collaborating at a different level. Deloitte, who is a world-renowned company, has built a $300 million facility in Dallas, Texas, out on Ross Ranch. So you actually drive past cattle to get back to the facility. But this state-of-the-art facility incorporates many of the technologies and tools that we can use today. As a matter of fact, their classrooms are quite different than our traditional classrooms. And I found that this one particular classroom that I was able to get a photo of is one that many universities will fly a team of leadership team over to see the classrooms because of its innovative qualities. This room, particularly, if I can point to, has four video conferencing units that are like this we're using today for me to come to you. They're placed around the room. Notice the furniture is portable, as well as the instructor podium. You have the interactive whiteboards that are also movable. You have ceiling-mounted microphones to pick up audio from wherever they might be in the room, and also ceiling-mounted cameras. I'm having trouble getting over to that. Right there to the left, or right above. There you go. And so this classroom becomes an environment in which they can connect sections of the room and have group team huddles, student huddles. It might be by language, or it might be by topic. You also have the ability to bring in subject matter experts one on top of the other, or even have a round table type collaborative discussion with experts coming in from around the world into the classroom. So many universities are actually building rooms like this. Among some of the more innovative technologies that we're seeing and innovative best practices, we're starting to see a collaboration among universities extending their reach, but also extending the way that they teach. Not just doing collaborative projects, but also expanding the reach of their faculty to students, and it could be a one-on-one connection. It could be a high-level collaboration. Besides regular programs and degree programs, certifications, etc. Research projects. And here we're showing collaboration between Australian National University and the Manhattan School of Music. Now, Manhattan School of Music has international collaborative partners with conservatories and the like around the world. So you might see an extended reach even to the United Arab Emirates and some of their collaborations. I was just with the Hong Kong Academy of Performing Arts 2 weeks ago, and they have a relationship with Manhattan School of Music as well as the Canadian National Conservatory. Now, what's unique about what Manhattan School of Music does is that they've begun not only their collaboration among the same level institutions, but they're reaching into primary, secondary school and providing master classes. They recently, this past summer, partnered with the state of Nebraska here in the United States and the Department of Education, and they offered master classes across the state. One-on-one classes with instructor and student were virtually separated, but able to do a high-level music connection and coachings. They taught 800 hours into the Nebraska schools this summer, and they're currently offering 55 hours a week. One of the outcomes, which I was excited about, was a very small rural school who has one music teacher for all grade levels. And he's not specialized. He can teach all instruments, but he's really truly not specialized by instrument, except for the ones in which were his particular instruments that he uses himself. But he was able to bring oboe lessons to oboe student and violin lessons and so forth. An outcome from a lot of the lessons he had this summer was that 12 of his students made the state orchestra. That's unheard of in his school. And so he, as an instructor, is getting a lot of kudos for using subject matter expertise and enriching his classroom. So you'll see it didn't replace him, which is what quite a few of my colleagues at first are very concerned with. They're also using the technology to stream this and show the master classes in action so that students can have access to them later. Through the technology, students are finding that even if they're stuck in an airport, they're able to connect to the classroom and not miss. We're also seeing a lot of collaborative projects. I was looking for one. Here we go. A collaborative project such as this one, a research project from the top of the mountains, where the students are using video conferencing to connect back to their institution. When I asked them how they were doing it from the top of the mountain out in the middle wilderness, they simply said, we chose the mountain with the cell phone tower. Now, one of the big movements that I'm sure you're familiar with is MOOCs, massive open online courses. This MOOC mania is sweeping the world. I recently, while I was in China, participated in a think tank along with about 20 of my colleagues from around the world. We were at the Open University of China. To my left was VJ from MIT. To my right was a beautiful woman and colleague from the UNISA, which is the University Collaboration in South Africa. And what we were talking about is what began in 2012, even though many of us believe we've been doing these types of courses for many years, but it really hit the mainstream when Professor at Stanford offered his course free online, and 50,000 students signed up in the first 12 hours. So now we're all looking at how, what are the best practices? Where are we currently, and where do we want to go? How is this massive distribution of knowledge affecting students around the world and reaching the very rural? Is it replacing some of the traditional things we've done? We're not sure. We're finding that in opposite has been in the case of, let me give the example of the British Open University, where when they first started their university, they were able in the first 3 years to get 25,000 new students. When they offered MOOCs, they had 25,000 students within the first few hours of one of their courses. And what they discovered is that these students who are taking these courses are choosing to come to the university for their three-year degree. So it's turned into paying students. Now, one of the things we've also discovered is flipped learning, which many universities are beginning to implement. For example, I was at the University of South Carolina at the Darla School of Business recently. And I was working with their faculty to add flipped learning practices into their professional MBA program. What part is captured before? By taking the lecture and pre-capturing it, sharing that with students prior to coming to class. What has traditionally been done inside of class and outside of class are now flipped. And so now they are able to pre-watch the lecture, come to class, and be engaged in a much more student-centered pedagogy in collaborative work teams, even geographically dispersed student collaborative teams. They're also able to dive deeper into whatever the context is within the principle they're showing, whether it's data mining that they're learning about or some of the other programs that are part of their PMBA program. So this has become a very big practice and is spreading throughout the world. We're seeing the learning environments change very quickly with the mobile technologies. Not only are students at home, but faculty are. Going back to Manhattan School of Music as an example, you saw a quick picture of Pinka Zuckerman and Thomas Hampson, Thomas lives in Zurich, but when he is in New York, he would travel to Manhattan School of Music and teach a master class. This happened about 3 to 5 times a year. Through mobile technologies, he's now able to connect from wherever he is performing throughout the world. And he teaches a minimum of a dozen classes a semester, master classes. He's loving it because he's been able to share his expertise and his knowledge in the way he wants to and fit it into his schedule. So we're seeing mobility change what our environments can possibly look like. Students can collaborate from their mobile devices. I was teaching a class in Asia Pacific, and one of my students, the gentleman in the bottom left corner, dialed in from his iPhone while he was driving 2.5 hours outside of Singapore. Of course, I made sure first that he was not driving while I was teaching. He had pulled over to the side of the road. He had a meeting that started 30 minutes after the class, but he needed, it was 3 hours from home, so he needed to be that far down the road. What was interesting to me was at that point I purposely shared some content with very small writing, and I asked my students who could share with me a point that was on the slide. And the students that were sitting in the classroom were leaning down, looking, trying to read the screen across the room. And suddenly this gentleman started reading what I had asked. All of us were quite surprised, but he simply just said, pinch, scroll. So he was able to enlarge the content section that he needed to be able to learn. So we're seeing a lot of different ways of collaborating. And one last thing I do want to share is the way I teach. For just a moment, I do a lot of classes and teaching at a distance. Now, traditionally, I am one of our university's campuses, and I'll teach out to about 4 campuses. Now, what I've done in the past, even though that was distance learning, was that I would have my students work in teams, but ever so often I would only have one student at one campus taking the course. I might have 15 or 20 in front of me, another 20 or 30 at a campus, and 10 here. And occasionally, particularly on the rural campuses, I'd have one student. Who would I set them up to collaborate with? And so now through virtual meeting rooms, what I've and all these mobile devices is changed my pedagogical approach. Now I will pre-capture my lecture, the students watch it prior to coming to class, and then when I get into class, I set the stage of what we're going to do. I've already pre-assigned my students in their teams, and it doesn't matter where they're located because they have the mobility of collaborating and huddling in their team. So from wherever they are. So there could be 4 different teams in one classroom, huddled in different corners, but they're connected to students in the other rooms. So I'm able to present the concept, set the stage of what we're going to do. They work in their teams, and then we come back into what I call the big room, the big virtual meeting room. Each team has their own virtual meeting room that they meet in. And I also keep Microsoft Link open. And what I do is allow them to instant message me if they would like to need my help, if I need to facilitate. And they will literally just IM me and say, we need you a moment to put their meeting room number, and I'll dial into their room and help support what they need. So it's truly transformed the way I teach. I want to close with just a couple of final real quick pictures on some other things that we're seeing. With the mobility today, we're seeing that in this case, the educator goes out across the national parks and is able to bring the classroom or should I say bring the wilderness, the national park into the classroom for live collaboration. So there is no place you cannot go. As a matter of fact, in Australia, we have the Reef HQ. You can go diving off the Great Barrier Reef. You can collaborate. Your students can collaborate and do some marine biology virtually. You also have the Charles Sturt University who offers their remote telescope project to collaborate with universities around the world so that during your day you can study the nighttime sky and the southern hemisphere. Finally, what we're seeing is quite a few universities, science centers, museums, various organizations throughout the world become content providers. So now you take your subject matter expertise and you offer that globally. And this has become a way of generating revenue for many. Some choose to do this free, and some will choose. So what we're seeing is a lot of partnerships and a lot of content that is offered virtually to enrich your curriculum. For example, I'll give you a very obscure example. Who would have thought that I was working with Penn State University last year? And I brought in the Cleveland Museum of Art. Just to show how they are so good at their programs. They use the green screen technology weatherman approach so their content can be behind them. And they can take you anywhere or show any type of art or other artifacts. And I was just demonstrating what it was like. But a professor in the back of the room raised his hand and said, I teach economics. What could you possibly offer me? And within just a few minutes, the Cleveland Museum of Art responded with pictures popping up behind them and showed them that they had in the museum some of the oldest artifacts of bartering available, some of the early economic times, and she began to share with them some of the things they could do and told him that she could customize the program to fit exactly what he needed. He literally took down her information so that he could start the collaboration when he found out what she could offer for him. So we're seeing this really change what's available, where you can reach, and how it's really enriching our programs, our classrooms, and extending our reach in some phenomenal ways. With that, I'm going to stop presenting, sharing my content. And take any questions. Do I have any questions or even discussion? Exciting things you're sharing that you're doing. There's one.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and very interesting, though I came very late, but nevertheless, whatever I grasped, it was very informative. Where do you think, at which part of the world do you think you may be able to classify it as #1 education system? Which really, I mean, smart, mobile, mixture, all, one of them, whatever. Where?
So where do you think is some of the most progressive places in education? Okay.
That's what I mean.
Okay, well, first of all, I have to mention Ankabut because you're very forward-thinking in what you're doing around what you're doing with your networks and offering your universities. So I think that's a state-of-the-art infrastructure and has the resources now to greatly expand what some of the great things the universities are already doing. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that one. I would think probably what we're seeing is some of the South America, like in Brazil, are very forward-thinking with some of the things they're doing. The U.S., the UK, Australia is moving up very quickly and actually becoming, they're now third in the world for international students. So they've quickly moved up with what they're offering and the way they're expanding their reach. I think also when you look at Education City in Doha and some of those other places, there are some pockets throughout the world of some very forward-thinking and innovative best practices.
You mentioned Brazil, right?
Yes, she mentioned Brazil, yes.
Did you mean Brazil or just as an example?
She cannot hear you. Yeah, she needs the mic.
Okay, try again.
Okay, thank you very much. It was very nice, interesting presentation. You have given us a lot of information about the theoretical contents. Can you give me some information where we can have distance learning about labs or practical experiments and things for the students?
Oh yes, absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. So what we're seeing with labs and research is that we're able through various technologies, whether it's gaming, simulation, or live laboratory experimenting, you're able to bring in labs and connect to those between labs as well as provide expertise. I'll give you a good examples. A lot of the medical field are doing quite a few laboratories and using the power of all the technology, such as ceiling mounted cameras to zoom in. For example, teaching some of the latest surgical techniques. One of my good friends who's a surgical nurse and has been one for 27 years told me that she participated in a virtual laboratory recently where they were performing the same it was same surgery that the expert was performing at a university hospital in California. And she said what she could see better on video from the ceiling mounted mic was 100 times better than standing next to the surgeon in the room and handing him the instruments. So with all the technologies we're seeing that you can really make a simulation or the true laboratory come to life. We're seeing that there are quite a few universities that will do their practical anatomy workshops and extend those. The thing you always have to be careful of is what's available to the students at the far side or wherever they are, and then augmenting that with some simulations or these serious things for a virtual reality. So like even with the new Google glasses where you can see on your screen what's going on right on your eyes. We're seeing that work very well. And we're also seeing in the field outdoor environmental laboratories, for example, where they're wearing headsets that have a camera here and a microphone here and a backpack you wear on your hip or your chest where you can see the far side just straps on. And so you're able to whatever you're doing with your hands is what they are seeing. So it extends the vision of how to do the laboratory. I was recently participating in one where we're removing the lens of an animal eye to show the far students. Person was hundreds of miles away that was showing us, and we were using document cameras, so an overhead camera that was lower down, and he was having the student lean the scalpel and be careful not to damage the lens. So he coached him through. We could see what he was doing, and he was coaching the students through what he was doing. So we're seeing a lot of that laboratories as well as that technology being used, for example, I'll give another totally different than medical example. You have a company like Boeing that makes jumbo jets. You can't very well roll a jumbo jet into the classroom. But you can have the instructor sticking his head up inside the wheel well to show you how to work on the mechanics. And it be 3D, very realistic. So we're seeing a lot of those technologies really make laboratory environments come to life.
Good. I think, do we have more questions? Yes, last question here, please.
Okay.
Thank you. It's Claude Frachon from University of Montreal. It's a good example that your talk intervened at the end of this conference, because it started with a very good example with smart learning next generation. And unfortunately, I don't agree with your approach. Your approach is what was 20 years or 30 years ago. Where is the pedagogical approach? Where is the reactivity? You gave an example. You have a short question. You talk about during 10 minutes. Where is the interactivity with the audience, with the learner? This is what the smart learning generation want to do, you know, and they are in the right direction. But I'm sorry, you have ITS, Intelligent Tutoring System, which it's a lot of researchers in US and in the world who try to adapt learning content, who try to develop a pedagogical strategy. And MOOC are completely 20 years, 30 years, before. So it's important to look at the reactivity in order to correct. Even if you teach online, you should adapt the content, learning content.
Thank you so much for saying that. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Where I really showed some of the instructional best practices, I didn't dive into very deeply how personalized the learning could be, how engaged the students are, and that is imperative. A lot of the things that we talk about, even with MOOCs and many of the other things we have been doing for 30 years. What we're learning is now that we have all of these smart tools available so that they can get live instruction, they can collaborate, they can have personalized instruction where we use metadata such as meta tagging and the like, and add that into create a much more personalized, engaged student learning environment, whether it is synchronous or asynchronous. One of my very good friends, Dr. Nish Sunwalker at MIT, has started actually his own company called Synaptic Learning, and he is really looking at some 4D models. But what you're able to do is to take students where they are and assess them, and then build off of that so that the learning and the activities become extremely engaging and interactive. If you are not interactive, and it's just a sit and get environment of 30 years ago, it's not effective. And what I found with this technology, with all the smart technologies and engaging and collaborating with and annotating and sharing content, bringing up multiple screens of content and all of those things that we can do now is highly necessary. If we don't change our pedagogical approach, if we still remain the sage on the stage, and we don't become the guide on the side, then we've totally missed the boat. So I'm so glad we're ending my session with your comments about that. And I know in 30 minutes I don't have enough time to dive into a lot of those student-centered pedagogies. I just hit a very high level of what's happening and the tools that are available to transform the way we teach. So hopefully we can have further conversation.
Good. Thank you very much, Marci. Thank you. It was always a pleasure having you with us, and we hope to see you physically and face-to-face here in UAE one day. Good.
I am
Thank you
hoping
very
in
much.
2014 to be there.